So I just read over your consultation form. Seems like you've kind of inherited.
Yes. So my mom thinks she can take care of him again. So I just don't know. She's on dialysis at this point, and with COVID, it's just made all of her chronic conditions kind of flare up. And so she's living with my sister right now, which is why he's not over there, because they have a dog.
Gotcha.
There's not a lot of room. I know. And so, but he's a dog that he was raised by two 70-year-olds. And so we got him for my mom after my dad passed away. And basically she just needed a dog that was gonna keep her alert, like kind of be a little bit high maintenance, just because, just getting her back into a routine. So he's done all of that. She did a little bit of training with paws, I remember, because I had gotten her those sessions, but he's really been a house dog. And he had a backyard, and he had full run of her building. So I live in 1,100 foot condo, so it's just, so we go out, and he's pretty great on walks. But the thing is I don't know how much interaction he's used to with others. So he just starts barking at other dogs, or there's times where he gets like, I guess it's aggressive, I don't even know, but where I've had to hold him, and so then he's kind of bitten me, but he's not biting on purpose, I don't think, but he's gotten me.
Sure.
But he did bite somebody recently, so I'm just like, and I know that he's just gone through a lot. So my mom was hospitalized for a couple of weeks, and so he was at home with my uncle, but he was used to having somebody there all the time. So my uncle would come to walk him, and that was it. And so that's when I decided to take him. So he's had just a lot of changes this year. I know, baby, I know.
How long have you had him for?
I don't even remember anymore. It has to be maybe 6 months at this point. I thought it was going to be like a 1 or 2 month thing, and it's just been a while. So that's when and I didn't want to change too much, because I thought my mom was going to take him back fairly soon, but
with everything going on.
Yeah, with everything going on, it just doesn't. Yeah, so I just need him to stop barking at he hears a noise and he's barking. And I get, like, I was reading about Yorkies, and that's what they do. They let you know, I guess, that they're barking. So. And I don't want to overly train him or anything. I just want him to listen to me. So he's pretty good at sitting. He's pretty good at staying. But I think once something kicks in and he just decides, I can't get him to really come back and focus.
His energy here, like, because he's really anxious right now.
Yeah.
Is he like this whenever you go somewhere new? Is it whenever something changes?
I think, this is actually, I did take him to go get groomed the other day, so I don't know if maybe this is why he's a little bit anxious right now.
Okay. How was it when you took him to get groomed?
He was, I also changed the groomer, because, so he's had a groomer that he's had for his whole life, and so I couldn't get an appointment with her, so I took him somewhere new, and I think that's what had him a little bit anxious. I know. And then the only other time was when he got sick, that we took him to the vet, and so, or to the animal hospital. He was like this. But he's not sick right now, but I think he has these memories of. Oh, he's okay. You're okay.
How did he bite somebody?
It was my fault. We had gone on a long hike, and he was thirsty, and so I took off the leash. And he was perfectly fine. I was just kind of massaging him and petting him, and he saw some guy, and he just went berserk, which he had never done before. So it was all my fault. And I don't know what it was about that man or whatever, because it wasn't anything. And so he just went after him. So I was able to grab him, but and he didn't really do much damage, but still, it was just I was mortified, and I don't know what it was that, I don't know if he was super tired after the hike or what had happened, but.
Oh, was it daylight still?
Yeah.
What time of day?
It was like midday. Yeah.
How far was the gentleman before he started barking?
I don't know, because he was to my back. So I don't know how far or anything like that, but I have noticed that the people he goes like really to bark for they tend to be bald with hair on their side. So I don't know what that's about, but because he did it the other day to some other guy that when I looked at him, I was like, oh, he has like the same profile as the other guy. But he's been with my mom since he was since he was a puppy, so.
And then when he's redirected to you, when you said like he gets really reactive, he kind of nips at you, because I can see him already here, like
Yeah. Come
going
here,
at the
baby.
leash and stuff,
Yeah. Come here, baby.
is,
Come here, you're fine. I know.
has he ever broken skin or anything, or is it?
No, not with me. I mean, he's left like a bruise or something like that, but nothing major. Cacique, come here, baby. Come here. You're okay. I just, new things right now are hard for him because he hasn't had anything new in his 9.5 years.
Oh, he's 9.5?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
He's got good teeth for 9.5.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
from at least from what I can see here.
okay.
Because my Chihuahua is like 8,
Okay.
9 years old, and his teeth don't look that nice.
No?
Yeah. And small dogs are notorious for having bad teeth.
Oh, okay. You're good.
So when he gets anxious like this, is this how you try to console him?
He doesn't get anxious like this, so I don't know what it is about right now. Other than the doctor, so yeah, when we took him to the vet that one time when we were there for a long time, he just sat in our laps. But my younger sister's really the dog person. She can't take him because she just has a puppy, so she just has a way with him where she can calm him. He just sits with her. Okay, you're okay. I know.
So, because everything you're doing here is actually making him more anxious.
Oh, is it? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Oh, gosh.
So what I'll have you do is go ahead and have a seat here.
Okay,
I'm
like,
gonna-
I don't know what to, okay.
Yeah, let me go grab something real quick.
All right, you're good. Come here. I know. All right, you're good? Okay. Okay.
Maybe again.
What do you need me to do? Oh, hand you the leash?
Yeah. He might panic a little bit.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead and have a seat.
Yeah, I'm the least dog person out of my siblings, and so, but I was born without the dog, without a responsibility of a dog, so that's why I have him.
Sure. It's okay. There we go. So, the anxiety that we're seeing here,
Yeah.
most likely just because he's in a foreign environment,
Uh-huh.
and because he saw how he just kept pacing and he was shaking a lot, and the pining and the whining and stuff,
Uh-huh.
is typically our first instinct is to console.
Yeah.
However, for dogs, they don't really understand human consoling.
Okay.
Because so for a person, if someone was anxious with you right now, like, a child or another person or adult, you can say like, hey, it's okay, this is just like an appointment.
Yeah.
And you communicate all these things to help them kind of be logical about the situation, to help de-stress them. For dogs, he doesn't understand that. Like, you can talk to him all you want, he just won't know what you're saying.
Okay.
Is when you're trying to touch or pet him to soothe him or console him, is touching is a reinforcer.
Oh,
Okay, so if you say sit and he sits, we pet.
yes.
And we're saying, do that again. So here what you're telling him is, yes, you should feel this way in this kind of environment. And he's gonna feel anxious regardless.
Okay.
It's just a matter of how does he respond to the anxiety? Does he give into it and kind of pace around and all that stuff? Because it's gotta go somewhere. Or does he kind of just learn to relax and settle?
Okay.
So you can see here like the alertness, and how he just keeps looking around. So I'm not telling him to sit here verbally. Sit like in that fashion means put your butt down.
Yeah.
Here what I'm actually telling him is to relax. Okay, so I'm putting pressure using my leash here. And you can see how he just keeps kind of tugging away here.
Yeah.
There, good. So, children with autism, a lot of times have like service dogs that are taught to sit on them because the pressure of being sat on helps soothe them. So the same thing here, every time he gets up and I'm just kind of putting pressure on him, it's the same kind of concept. I'm just trying to de-escalate and calm
Okay.
the brain till at some point, maybe he would lay down, or at the very least, just not get up so much. Okay, so you see how he keeps popping up?
Yeah.
That's the anxiety. his brain is unable
Yeah.
to like completely settle. So here, before reaching out, did you happen to do any research on me, how I train, the methods that I use?
Yes, I did see some. I went online and I was looking at a couple of the just videos that you had. I saw you mainly working with people though that were trying to get their dog to walk on their side.
Sure. Yeah. So you know, leash pulling is like one of the most common things that people want to address.
Yeah.
But
I did see. I'm sorry, but I did see also that you work with dogs that have just modifying their behavior or just and for me more so it's just he's had so many changes right now that I think I was trying to figure out what would be the best way to just help him be comfortable.
Right. So when it comes to addressing like all this stuff here, okay, this isn't like a terrible case. This is what I would expect from a 9.5-year-old dog who's had no structure, and like you said, lived with a 7-year-old and kind of just had to run in the house and stuff. And now it's like completely different, where he's doesn't have a yard. He's completely out of his norm. Went to a new groomer. He's now out of the building that he's never been to before. Right? That's where structure comes into play, because it creates a consistency. Okay, so here, what I'm trying to do for him is, even though he keeps getting up, I keep just repositioning, and I'm giving him consistency. He may not like it, but he's getting consistency. It's just he's done this for 9 years. So here, when we do the training, a lot of what you're struggling with the barking and stuff is simply just because he's 9.5 years old doesn't mean he can't be corrected. So if he did something to one of my dogs and they disagreed with it, they didn't like it, they would bite him. They wouldn't care that he's 9 years old. Okay, and that's kind of what's missing here. Is he's had no real form of discipline, and now he's 9.5 years old with all these life changes kind of happening, and it's causing him to stress out. Okay. So it sounds counterintuitive to people, but when we do discipline, that's actually what helps dogs relax. It puts limitations to them, so that they don't get like this. Okay. So the concept is simple. However, for a dog his age, it's kind of like you have to overcompensate now. Does that make sense? Because it's been happening for so long, is now he is kind of going 180 in his life here. Does that make sense? So, did you read on the training tool that I use?
The collar?
The e-collar, correct. Okay. Now, e-collar is perfectly safe to use. My 8-pound Chihuahua is trained on an e-collar. My 60-pound pit is trained on an e-collar. And they're 8 to 9 years old now. Okay. So the reason why it's so effective is it allows us to do the physicality of discipline without actually having to be overly physical. Okay. So here, have you ever been to a chiropractor or physical therapist?
Yes.
Have you ever had stim therapy? Or
No.
stim? It's the electrodes, the little circles with the wires.
Yes, I have.
That's e-collar. Okay, so people, when they think of e-collar, tend to think electrocution. They tend to think like sticking your finger in an outlet. Okay, but it's not. It's a centralized current that only contracts the muscle that it's making contact with. So if he's wearing it on his neck, you'd only see the twitch happen on the neck. He would feel nothing anywhere else. Okay, so the reason why it's so effective, and a lot of this is going to be a bit more than what you need. So I'll explain how I go about this. But the walking thing that you mentioned, I saw a lot of videos of people walking their dog, that's actually the primary component of fixing something like this. Okay, it's because the leash walking exercise that we teach helps teach dogs how to settle. Okay, it helps teach them how to focus, it helps teach them how to relax, it helps calm him down, so that when we come into a new setting like this, you see how he's so like typically this just takes me a couple of minutes, but he's so wound up, it's gonna take a bit.
Okay.
Is it helps him go into a new setting and just relax much more quickly, okay? Much more quickly, either on his own or by our instruction.
Okay.
So like if I had the collar on right now and he had been conditioned and trained with it, like I would just literally give a press of the button and the contraction kind of mimics a dog bite
Okay.
to tell him, hey, you don't need to be this stressed out. You don't need to be this anxious. So for a human, you would tell someone, hey, it's just an interview. The worst thing that can happen is they tell you no. But for a dog, if another dog is overly stressed, they don't console or try to explain, they just nip. And they go, there's no need to be this stressed out. So, but when people think of physicality, they tend to think of harm, or they tend to think of like, it's gonna make it worse, and it depends on how you approach it. So like here, because I'm using the touch and we're getting little spurts of him just being able to hold it, but there's no real aversive to it. So aversives are meant to stop or deter things, okay? So if there was truly an aversive here that he was respecting, you would see him settle much more quickly because he's wanting to avoid the aversive.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So like for me growing up, I was raised old school, I was spanked. So if I wanted to like avoid the spanking, I did my homework, I didn't talk back to my mom, I made sure I was home on time, you know, after school or after going to a friend's house, I obeyed the rules. That's what the aversives are meant for. So for him, it's similar. Now he's not doing anything wrong, but in order to get him to settle, I have to disagree with the behavior and say like, hey, there's no need to be anxious here. So once we get the heel in play, which is the leash walking exercise, and you said there was reactivity, correct, towards dogs?
Sometimes, I mean, I just never know.
Okay.
So I always tell people he's moody or, you know, what, and then he'll, sometimes with a dog, he's super friendly, and then other times he just, puppies, he's not very, he's not very excited about puppies.
Okay. So where that's probably coming from when we get inconsistencies like that is most likely his stress levels. So what you describe as moody, right? So like if he's overly stressed, for example, in a new environment, you might find he might be more reactive because he's already stressed out as it is. So when you bring in another stressor, he goes over threshold. So if he's in a passive state and calm and we introduce a stressor, we shouldn't see reactivity because he's not already stressed as it is. Does that make sense? So the leash walking would also make that more consistent. Because if I have a reactive dog or a dog that lunges and marches on the leash, we always teach leash walking first, okay? Most people think we go look for dogs and when the dog is bad, we punish them. But that's not what we do. We actually teach them what to do first, see what does that fix, and then we adjust things, we address things as we go along.
Yeah.
So the leash walking stuff, you know, you might think like, oh, but I don't need him to walk like this.
Yeah.
You may not need him to, but for his kind of mental states, it's required, okay? Once he knows how to walk correctly, a lot of this stuff should start to just go away.
Okay.
The reactivity stuff, the inability to settle whenever in the new environment, or even if he gets worked up like this, being able to calm him down, essentially at the press of a button, is that's always the kind of primary approach, because it's something that we do with our dog multiple times a day, right? We go on at least 3 walks a day. So it allows you to practice structure and discipline 3 times a day. It helps them learn to kind of just shut that brain down. So like right now, it took me like maybe 10 minutes or so, but now this is like the longest he sat for. But I was very consistent every single time, just adjusting and adjusting and adjusting, telling him to relax, okay? This isn't about sitting. This is just about relaxing. So if you go to someone's house and they say, hey, make yourself comfortable, we a lot of times just sit down, right? So same thing for this guy, except, so sit is a mechanical response. I say sit, he puts his butt down, better. But mentally he can still be stressed. So you here, if you tried sit, you sit, 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 and you keep going. But here, I didn't say sit. I was using that pressure, because pressure calms dogs down, like I was mentioning about the kids with autism, right? It helps calm them down. So it wasn't so much me telling him to sit as it was me telling him to relax and using a lot of this physical touch. So that now You can see how he's going on his hip.
Yeah.
He's obviously still stressed, but now he's able to kind of just settle, hold still for a period of time. And he's gonna get up in a couple of minutes and I'm gonna put him right back. And little by little, as I have him, you would see his behavior start to change.
Yeah.
But he's under my influence now. Okay? So this here, even though it seems simple, is complicated. The remote collar is much more easier. Okay? It's very logical. I've broken it down, it's super simple. Because of COVID, obviously things are a lot different. I'm able to train dogs verbally, just coaching the owner through it, and they're getting effective and reliable obedience and functional obedience because of this tool. Because other tools take too much skill. This takes a lot of skill. Okay, like this leash here, if not used correctly, could choke a dog out. Okay, but because I understand the concept of pressure and I've been doing this for 10 years, I can get effective results, but it's just going to take me a lot longer. This stuff you don't have to worry about learning. The tool is very straightforward. The first thing I would do is teach this guy how to walk correctly and see what does this fix. Okay, so we go back to the instance of the gentleman and him like becoming, it's kind of like territorial, essentially, overload of stress.
Yeah.
You got caught off guard, something happened, and dogs are primal animals. You may just think, but that's just somebody that's enjoying his trail. But for him, he's like, whoa, where'd this guy come from?
Yeah.
We're by ourselves. Someone's got to protect us. He's going to fulfill that role. Okay, so he's not coming from a bad place. He's actually coming from a good place of security. But obviously, we don't need it there because you know, like this is a trail where there's going to be other people.
Yeah.
Okay, so in his world, it's fight or flight. So if he's limited and he can't get anywhere, he's going to go into fight mode. Okay. So when it comes to the other stuff, like you said barking in the home, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. That may settle with just the leash walking stuff because he's not constantly up here.
Yeah.
You know, so the first thing I would do with this guy is teach that first, and then you're the feedback. You tell me what's working, what's not working. So you might say, hey Jesse, he stopped barking on the leash at dogs. You know, people have walked up and no problem. But he's still barking in the house.
Yeah.
And I'll ask you, what is he barking at? And you say, like, whenever a guest comes over, I go, that's normal.
Yeah.
Okay, and then we'll address that.
It's that and the vacuum cleaners, when those are the two main, like if he hears the door, outside my door, not my door, but that, if he hears people walking, but then anytime the woman is vacuuming the hallway, that stresses him out, is the vacuum cleaner.
Because for him, because there's a barrier with the door and stuff, he just hears this weird sound, and it sounds, for him, threatening, so then that's where he goes on security mode, okay? Now, you can stop that if you'd like, okay? But that's where he's coming from, especially if he's not used to it, if he was in a standalone house for so long. You know, it's really weird for him to think like, hey, there's people walking up and down this hallway, because where he used to live, it was just the isolated home.
I mean, he lived in a 3-flat, but he had full reign of because my uncle lives downstairs, my sister lives upstairs, so he really had full reign of a building and a backyard.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now he's really confined. I mean, I do go out on walks 3 times a day, morning walks, super long for him, you know, and then he naps for a while, and then whatever, but yeah, so it just has been, so many things changed for him with COVID and stuff, so.
Yeah. So even though things are changing, as long as there's some consistency and structure, it helps him carry over to new things.
Yeah.
Okay? So like, it's kind of like with humans. You know, we're in Illinois right now. You go to Texas and a bulk of the laws are the same. I'm sure they have some differences, but the bulk of the laws are the same. That you can assume like, okay, I'm assuming 70 means 70 on the expressway. I'm assuming that I can't run a red light here, right? So that consistency allows us to kind of go from state to state and not have to worry about, are things different here? Now, if we go to a completely different country like China, it's different. They're gonna have different laws and rules than us. So then, it's like that, I don't know if you ever heard about that kid, that he was a college kid, went to China and like stole one of their like propaganda, and then he ended up going into I think they gave him life as in work camp. It was some extreme, crazy, you know, consequence, and I think the U.S. was trying to like get him back and stuff. But here in the US, like had he stolen something like that, it probably would have been like a slap on the wrist or whatever, right? But he did it in China,
Yeah.
and he got their rules, right? He got their consequences. So for this guy, when you teach the concept of discipline and structure, and it's literally as simple as the heel, that helps him carry over from the groomer from one home to another home, because that's staying static.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Questions about any of this stuff?
No. So, yeah, I'm just worried about him. Obviously, you can see that, and so I just want him to be comfortable more than anything else, and that I can be comfortable in case if this does become more permanent than
Sure.
than I was anticipating.
The issue that we may see here is because he's gone 9.5 years of no discipline, is you're probably in the beginning going to see a very stressed dog.
Yeah.
Okay, because he's never had discipline before. So when he gets exposed to it, don't be concerned or discouraged if he looks quote unquote worse.
Yeah.
It's not that he's worse, it's that he's being exposed to discipline and he has to get over it.
Yeah.
So that's again where the walking comes into play, because you do it 3 times a day, is the more you expose them, the faster they get over it, the faster they learn to accept it. But when we see the stress and the anxiety levels go up, people's instinct is typically to withdraw or stop, right, or cut short. And that doesn't help him, because then you expose him to the stressor, but then you never help him work through it.
Yeah.
And then he never learns how to actually handle stress itself. So I've seen it tons of times. I mean, I think the oldest dog I worked with was like 12 years old. And it was perfectly fine, but the dog was like definitely freaked out in the beginning, But through practice, they got the dog over that.
Okay.
When it comes to like what I would recommend for you in like length of time and stuff, the way I go about things is I only teach what I think you're gonna need.
Okay.
And I think the solution is simple enough. Is I honestly think you just need to learn how to walk this guy correctly using discipline, and we see what does that fix.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a 3-week program, so I have 3, 6, 9, and 12-week programs. I honestly feel that just proper leash walking with discipline is going to resolve the bulk of this guy's problems. Okay, that typically takes about 2 classes. So we have the first class, you go and practice for the week, you come back for class 2. How's it going? What are the improvements? Or are things not changing? You're my feedback. If you're like, hey Jesse, like 70% of stuff is better, that's usually how it works, because the heel fixes 60 to 70% of problems.
Okay.
And they go, great, it's doing its job. Then we fix the second half of heel, because it's a 2-part command. And then I might ask you on the things that you're struggling with, like barking with the vacuum cleaner or whatever. And then you come back class 3, how's everything going? Really good, but we're still struggling with like stopping and barking at people coming in, and like barking at the vacuum cleaner, otherwise he's great outside and all that stuff. Then I show you how to do that. Because it's simply, when it comes to barking at the vacuum cleaner, it's super simple, it's simply don't do that. So we tend to make things complicated by teaching all these other things that aren't necessary. So like most people, if their dog's like barking at the vacuum cleaner, they'll tell them to sit, or they'll call the dog away.
Yeah.
And the dog will come, but then the dog goes right back to barking at the vacuum cleaner. Because nothing said, don't bark at the vacuum cleaner. Okay, you said, get over here, and he came over, and he goes, I'm done, I'm gonna go back and bark at the vacuum cleaner, right? So that's where aversives come into play, because remember growing up, if I talk back to my mom, I got spanked. Don't talk back to me, right? I don't care what you do, but don't talk back to me. Or, I was also spanked as a motivator to like do my homework and stuff. So it's kind of that same concept, but it's all done through the remote collar. The only issue that we may have here is with the behavior within the home. We don't want to have to use the collar all the time. So typically with the e-collar, when you're outside, expect to need to use it, because there's so much stuff that's going on. You have dogs passing by, you have dogs that might bark at them, you might have someone suddenly turn around the corner. There's a lot more stimuli, whereas in the home there's less stimuli. Okay, so if you use the collar inside the home to correct the behavior, which you could, it's going to make you dependent on the collar. So the e-collar, as I refer to it, is like a cop on the collar. Okay, so with humans, when the cops are around, we drive better. We go the speed limit, right? So on the expressway, most people speed, but then when we see a squad car, all of a sudden everybody's going the speed limit. So it's the same thing for dogs. Think of the e-collar as a cop on a collar. When it's present, he's gonna know, okay, I have to walk well, behave myself, I can't bark, I can't lunge at dogs, I can't do this, right? He's gonna be much more better behaved. But then when you remove the collar, he would be as if nothing ever happened. Because he knows I can get away with things now because that cop is not present, okay? So it has nothing to do with my training skills or the tool itself. It's called opportunistic behavior. All animals do it. So like if my mom said, hey Jesse, you can't watch TV, but then had to leave to go like get groceries while I watch my brothers and sister, I could watch TV because there's nothing to say I didn't, right? So same thing for the dogs. If he doesn't have the collar on, he knows, hey, there's no sort of consequence and he can get away with stuff, he's gonna push for it, okay? So within the home, he would only behave when that collar is on, but then when you remove it, all of a sudden he's barking back to the vacuum cleaner, okay? So that's where things get a little tricky. So I would give you an alternate means of correcting him. The issue with that means is because he's small and he's 9 years old, okay? Is that it's more confrontational. Because the e-collar simply is just a muscle stimulator. But if he did something and another dog disagreed with it, they wouldn't care that he's, what, like 16, 18 pounds, or that he's 9.5 years old, or that he's completely been thrown out of his norm because, you know, his owner is sick and all that stuff. If he did something they didn't like, they would just bite him. They don't rationalize and think to themselves like, oh, you're old, like, you know, we gotta be nice to you. Whereas for humans, if an older person tried to pick a fight with me, I wouldn't want to fight him because I'm like, no, like I'll hurt you, right? So dogs don't do that. So that's where things get tricky. E-collar, pretty simple because it's just muscle contraction. You press a button, we get a response. But if we're in the home and he's doing stuff, and let's say the leash walking and the discipline that we're hoping isn't fixing the behavior within the home, then we have to look at other means of correction. Otherwise, he's going to become dependent on the collar in order to behave well. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah. Normally in the condo, he's fine. I mean, you know, in terms of other than that barking, but yeah, he's pretty good about just, you know, even he going to the bathroom, he's totally potty trained. He's all of those other things, and he's sweet otherwise, but it's like what he wants to more than anything else. And so I think that's been where he and I have had the struggle of you know, if I'm trying to get him to sometimes just even go outside for the walk. So it's gotten to the point where I just kind of wait and then because I don't want to chase him to go outside. It's not that he doesn't want to go outside. It's that he's just decided he wants to play for a little while first and then he wants to go outside.
Oh, like chase?
Yes. But he doesn't like toys or any of those things. Like he's just not interested. He likes puzzles, so we do puzzles and things like that. But sometimes I just would like him to just listen to me, you know, more than what he does right now. But he just never has had to. So
yeah. So that part there, it's the issue is, you know, he knows you're gonna go for a walk. And he wants to play a game of chase. So obedience there doesn't really do anything because he's not in that mode, right? So even if you're like, you know, come, he's like, I don't want to come right now, I want to play. Is he would have to be corrected where like, we're not playing right now. You have to go for a walk. And that's for humans where they struggle with, because psychologically, he's not doing anything bad.
No, he's not.
Right?
No.
He's just being playful, but then you're like, I need to walk you. So when it comes to that, it would be correcting him essentially to teach him like, this isn't a game right now, you have to just do this. But you may struggle because it's gonna feel like you're being mean.
Okay.
Does it make sense? I've done this for 10 years and I know people, and I've seen that before, especially with puppies and stuff, where the puppy's just being playful, and they're like, I'm trying to leash him up, and it's funny. I'm like, yeah, but then it adds like 5 minutes to your morning routine, and you gotta get ready for work.
Yeah, and I think my whole thing too is so at this point I am gonna be going back to work. So I've been in the house with him the whole time too, and I think that's why I also wanted to, if this is gonna be more permanent, he's gonna have a whole new change
Sure.
in his life. So.
And is his life essentially like, we go for walks and I need him to behave, like, not park and stuff, or does he do more stuff?
No, what do you mean in terms of
Yeah,
just his own? So we go for walks. Sometimes I will, depending on what my schedule is, I had bought him little toys, but he doesn't like toys. So instead, I read that something about puzzles, and so then I got him these puzzles, and so that he'll do for a while, and he can sit there and I can do that, and then he takes a long nap after that. But that's really the extent of his kind of interaction. He sleeps a lot. If I take him to go see my mom, then he's there with my sister's dog, who's bigger, but again, he's not that interested in playing with the dog. He just wants to kind of chill on the sofa, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure that I'm not missing anything, like if you were to go to the park or run around off leash or anything like that.
So no, I sometimes what I've done is I've tried to just to kind of come, trying to practice come with him and things like that. So but I only do that if we're totally super early in the morning by ourselves, where I'll still leave the leash on, but I will kind of see if he'll come with me or not. But he's not. Yeah, I try not to have him off leash just because I know he's not trained. But he's used to. I also just feel bad because he's not used to always being on leash either, because that's just not.
Much freedom, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, my uncle would walk him, but I don't know what that routine looked like, so I have no idea what they were doing.
Sure. So the only reason I asked that is, for the problem itself and everything that you mentioned, I'm just thinking 3 classes.
Okay.
A couple on leash walking and then 1 on how to correct him correctly for the things you don't want.
Yeah.
But then if it's like, if you wanted to give him the capacity to be off leash and run around and not worry about is he going to run away, then that's more time.
Yeah, no, I just feel like he's not that interested in chasing. Like if he wanted to chase a ball down or a stick, then I would say that would be, but he's just not interested in doing that kind of physical exertion at all.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's 9.5 years old.
Yeah.
My guys, when they were younger, sniff, pee, poop, run, play, all that stuff. And now they're kind of like, they'll do it for a bit, and then like, all right, we're good. Yeah. Because they're maturing.
I have noticed he loves, so in the morning, more so, sometimes in the evening, never midday, he loves long walks. That we could be out there for like an hour and a half, and he's just really happy sniffing. And so I do try to do the shorter walk where I'll let him sniff wherever he wants. Otherwise, I try to kind of keep it going. But I do try to give him at least one walk where he can just explore.
Sure.
But the walking part of it, and it's ruined my routine because I used to run, and so I can't run if I'm walking him 3 times a day, and then and having to do work. So we do then. I do try to do at least one super long walk with him. That's at least an hour and a half.
Gotcha.
And he's game for it. He loves to just kind of be outside and just walk.
For sure.
But yeah, he's not a dog that's interested really in other people or other dogs.
Yeah, no, I mean, because if he was used to one person, because he's conditioned to a certain life, and now things have changed, but he for the most part is the same in the sense of like his preferences.
Yeah.
That's what he was used to.
Yeah.
So, any questions about this stuff so far?
No, I thought it was going to be more. I don't know if I just thought he had more issues just because maybe I'm projecting more issues onto him because of everything, but yeah.
It seemed, so this is common. What can seem like 100 things can be 5 things. Okay. So like someone might say, like, my dog barks out the window, they bark at dogs, they bark at people on the leash, they bark when I'm in the car, right? And I just go like, okay, it's all barking. Yeah. But to the owner, it feels like so different. It feels like so many different things. Yeah. And you would be surprised exactly how much discipline and just a structured walk can fix. Yeah. Okay, because there's like I don't think he's an aggressive dog. Like I think he had that one-off incident in 9.5 years of being on this earth, it sounds like, right?
He has bitten someone in my mom's house, but it's somebody who came into my mother's house, so I don't know what
Yeah, that's territorial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's, the outside one was the one that got me, but.
Which, I mean, that's still, so I actually coincidentally have another Yorkie that I was working with. They also did only 3 classes, because the dog, they've had him for like 5-6 years, and then bit somebody. They actually bit the aunt that around the calf. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on, because we have people coming in and out and all that stuff, and I was like, wait a minute, I'm like, does everybody knock? Because they have like a buzzer. They go, yeah. I'm like, did your aunt just walk in the house? And they go, yeah. I'm like, does anybody else just walk in your house? They go, no. And I was like, is that the first time someone just walked in your house? They said, yeah. I'm like, that's what your dog bit your aunt. Because the dogs use the knock, the human opens the door, there's like a ritual.
Yeah.
But then someone just randomly came in, the dog goes, whoa, who are you?
Yeah.
Right? And then they go into defensive mode.
Mm-hmm.
So the dog didn't, they go like, oh, you must have been like my mom's aunt.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna bite you, right? Dogs don't see things that way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stuff I don't think really factors in. The only thing is that potentially if you have end up having them for longer, is becoming territorial of your space.
Okay.
In the home with guests coming over and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think this is simple enough.
Okay.
I mean, it took me a bit, but he's now just starting to settle. The ears aren't as forward anymore. He's obviously still stressed and wanting to move here, but you can see him like starting to kind of relax a bit more here. Okay. So, other questions?
No, just, when can we get started, I guess? Yeah.
So that all depends on your availability. Maria handles all that stuff.
Okay.
I don't comment on my calendar just because I could think it's open and then there's like something, right? But she helped me figure all that out. I tend to be a reverse schedule, so like my evenings and weekends are most busy because people are typically 9 to 5.
I can do weekdays earlier.
Okay. So yeah, Maria will figure that out for you, but most likely if you have daytime availability, we can get you in sooner.
Okay.
In terms of cost and stuff, with the 3 classes, and then the consultation the fee gets credited towards your training. I believe for the 3 it's $550, I think.
Okay.
And then the training collar that he would need, I believe runs $237-ish with tax. Okay, so it's an investment. It's a half-mile range, fully waterproof system, both the transmitter and the receiver. For him, you're probably going to be using it, of course, when you're walking and stuff like that. It's a LED system, so it goes in increments of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all the way to 127.
Okay.
So we can really fine tune it. Cheaper models or older models would have like 5 settings.
Yeah.
And 5 and 127 would be the same, but I have 122 divisions now.
Okay.
So I can really fine tune it to him. So if like 20 is too low or 30 is too high, 24, 25, 26, it allows us that capability. And it's we're not yanking or pulling or anything like that. The remote collar does everything for us. It's very subtle. If you want, on our YouTube channel, so like I have, what was his name? He had a funny name. I'm trying to remember the other Yorkie. But I was gonna have as a reference for you to see like, oh yeah, like we can train small dogs.
Okay.
With the collar. I do have 2 dogs right now that are about his size. One is Pretzel and one is Goose. And Pretzel, even though she's his size, her number is like 60 to 80. But Goose, his number is like 12 to 18. So the size of the dog doesn't matter, the breed doesn't matter. It just comes down to the toughness of the dog. So even though he's 9.5 and he's 16 pounds or whatever, he could have a very high number, or he could have a very low number. That's where I come in, because I help educate you and help you recognize what's too much and what's too little. So that when you go to practice stuff, you have a concept of what you're doing, and then we see what it addresses, okay?
Yeah, I think I would prefer that that the collar only be used outside and that we figure out, the home thing. I just, want him to be comfortable in the home, and I still want the discipline part, but I don't know if, do you think the collar would be necessary in the home or no?
So, the tricky part about the collar is, in the home, I wouldn't want you to become dependent on it.
Okay.
Right? So it's not that the collar is bad to use in the home. It doesn't make him not like the home or anything like that. I mean, like for me growing up, I got spanked in the home, and I got spanked outside the home. Right? If I got out of line, I got disciplined. Right? It's the same thing for him. So it just is determined by how is his behavior impacted by the exercise.
Okay.
Is it possible for him to dial down more in the home? Yes. But him triggering in response to the vacuum cleaner would most likely not change.
Okay.
Because there's a stimuli there.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, if it's like, hey, Jesse, like his behavior is 180 and all, he's so much calmer now, our only issue is the vacuum cleaner, but you know what, it's fine, then I don't care.
Yeah.
You know, your house, your rules, what I always tell everybody. Because yes, there is an alternate means of correcting them without the collar inside the home. And I will teach it to you, I have no problem with that. It's just, I know people, because it's more confrontational, it's more physical, it's coming from you, and he's 9.5 and he's a small dog. And that's where the human brain has the barrier of like, uh-oh, you know, because you don't want to hurt your dog. But that's why I was like, other dogs wouldn't care that he's 9.5 and 16 pounds, which is like, they don't have that logic. So that's where things get tricky, okay? But I'll give you alternate methods to correct behavior. Whether or not they work is a whole different thing. But all this other stuff shouldn't be an issue. Okay? Other questions?
No, I think that's,
So Maria would get in contact with you.
Okay.
She would provide you all the information.
okay.
Once you're confirmed, she'll send you a training form and all that stuff. Once you're confirmed, you'll get an email from me to help, educate you on, get you familiar with the e-collar.
Okay.
So that when you show up for training, you can just jump into training.
Okay.
Right? Other than that, that's pretty much it.
Okay.
You know, this is what I would expect, considering everything that happened to him.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Yeah, I just had it in my head that he was he had all these issues, but I guess, yeah.
Yeah, a bulk of dogs' issues come from lack of discipline.
Yeah.
It's honestly the answer.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people come in looking for one thing, and I tell them like, if that was really the answer, because they all have like, other trainers, like the client I have after you had several trainers. Dog was friendly dog, but overly stimulated and kind of all over the place. And I was like, it's because no one's correcting the dog, and that's what's missing here. So they made a huge difference in their progress since they've started training. But it's because of the e-collar and the discipline that we put into play.
And you think just the 3 sessions, I just need him just to walk and not be so kind of, and he's not I just never know when it's gonna happen. So like the mood, that whole mood thing, but just 3 sessions or we do 3 sessions and then you say.
So from what you're telling me, I think 3 sessions is adequate.
Okay.
When it comes to like the mood thing, let's say we do the first class and you come back and you said, Jesse, like he barked at 10 out of 20 dogs. And I go, oh wow, I'm like, why? Were those dogs barking at him? Were those dogs behind the fence? Was it a sudden turn around the corner and there's a dog? I have to get more information because that stuff's pretty normal. But in that sense, because he would be outside and he would be on the collar, much more easier to correct them because it's at the press of a button. Okay. The tricky stuff is actually going to be the inside stuff. Okay. But that's the whole purpose of you doing the leash walking. Is because it calms him. So there's not going to be a jumping point. Like he's not going to be at 4 to 5 and then jump to an 8 when he sees a person like surprise him. He's going to get a 0 to 1. So it takes more work for him to escalate to that level. Yeah, I mean it's simple. If you were to like, he'd go off leash at the park and he'd run around and he would play fetch and stuff, then I would say like, okay, there's more stuff I'd recommend. But if the concern here is just like, I need to learn how to calm this guy down, give him some structure, and how do I correct a few things, that 3 classes should be enough. Okay? Anything else?
No, that's it.
Alrighty, so I'm gonna give this guy back to you. Take this off here. There he is. But Goose and Pretzel, they're younger dogs. Well, actually, Goose is older. Goose is like, I think 6 to 8 years old. And if you see him, he looks mopey because he's gone 6 to 8 years of like doing whatever he's wanted.
Yeah.
So that's what I was mentioning about this guy is, you know, he's gone so much of his life without
Yes.
discipline.
He is definitely the ruler of his house. So.
Yeah. But there's nothing here that I would say is,
Okay.
in my opinion, concerning.
Okay.
I think because for you it's completely new,
Yes.
it can feel that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I was not anticipating getting a pandemic dog, and so I wound up with one.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Good thing is he's small, so it's easier to handle.
Okay. Okay.
I have other clients that got big dogs and they have issues.